All right, so I've created this little plugin that adds some variation to your sound effects when they're played. To demonstrate, I've got this event set up here with a play sound effect. It just plays this blow sound effect, at 100% pitch. That's all that's important for what we're doing here. And basically, I'll demonstrate real quick how monotonous it is when you just play the same sound effect over and over again. It's typical what you'd expect. But if you turn on the plugin, go into the parameters here, and if you go into the targeted sound effect parameter and you add in the blow one that we're using, and then you see that there's a variation amount of 5, which would be a plus or minus 5% from whatever the blow one is set to. So that would be it would be 90 that it's set to, so it would be 85 to 95% pitch. That would be a variation. Every time the sound effect plays, the pitch will be a random number between whatever that was, 85 and 95. So you'll hear it. It's going to be pretty slight, but it does make a difference. But things start to get a little bit more interesting once you start using the other feature in here, which would be the sound variance feature. So what you would want to do is this makes it so that it doesn't only play one single sound effect when blow one is called. So we'll set that up by going to bass sound, and we're going to set the bass sound to blow one, and that will make it so that whenever blow one is called, we're going to set up some alternate sounds as well, which will be sounds that sound similar to it. You're probably going to have your own actual sound effects for this, but like this one is similar. And then I'm gonna copy it and then paste it again so that I don't have to scroll through the list and find it again. I can start at below 3. So we'll use 3, 5 because they're very similar. 7's good enough. Then we'll also use 8. And I think we'll call it at 3, 5, 7, and 8. That's pretty good. And now what this is going to do is it's going to I'll go back in here while I explain. It's going to take every single time blow 1 is called to play, it will pick a random sound effect between blow 1 and blow 3, 5, 7, 8, anything in this list. So it'll take the bass sound and anything in this list and pick a random one to use as the sound effect. And as long as blow 1 is set in targeted sound effects parameter up here, then the pitch variation will be applied to whatever sound plays in place of the bass sound. So if blow 3 plays, it will also have 90% pitch because that's what it was set to play at in the event by default, and then it'll have that plus minus 5% pitch. So it'll be 85 to 95% pitch for whatever of these sound effects play. And you'll hear the difference here when all of them play, and it adds a lot more variety every single time this one sound effect plays. All right. And this also works for menus as well. Any sound effect, really. But menus, I'll demonstrate because that actually uses a different method. I mean, it's the same way to set it up, but it's a different function. So we use cursor 4 for the menus in this project. So I'll set up cursor 4. I'm also going to have to add it up here. I did it a little bit backwards, but we're going to add cursor 4, and then I think it was cursor 2. That's very similar. Yep. And then now it's going to choose a random one of these 2 sound effects whenever you scroll through the menu. And I'm going to also add cursor 4 since that was the base sound to this list. All right. And now whenever we scroll through our menus, it will apply the same effect to the sound effect in the menus, which isn't too exciting, but I'm sure some creative stuff can be done with it. And that is pretty much the gist of it. It can be used for all sorts of different sound effects that you'd be commonly using in your game, like footsteps or, attack sounds. If you're using an action battle system, it would probably be really great for that as well, because then your sound effects have, you know, they're not all the same exact sound, sounding exactly the same every single time the player presses the button to attack. It's just the same exact pitch and the same exact sound file, and you don't necessarily have to use either of these things. You could use one or the other. So if you only wanted to have, say, you didn't want to have any variation at all, you just don't need to have them. But keep in mind that if you do leave this empty, that all sound effects will have this variation amount applied to it. So you'll probably want to set this to 0 if you don't want the pitch to change at all. And instead, you just want to cycle through between a few different sound effects. So if you set the variation to 0 and could then set the base, say if we wanted to use blow for a sound effect for attacking, then you would set blow 1 there, and then you could set all the other sound effects, and it would just cycle between the sound effects. Just like if you were to delete these and leave this list empty, well, that didn't work. But if you were to leave these empty, then it would only use the one sound effect and it would apply the variation like the very first example that I showed in this video. But that's pretty much the gist of it. So I hope you guys enjoy it. And that's all I got.